All right, guys, so I hope you're ready to talk about some hardcore politics, because that's what I'm about to talk about. As inflation is accelerating, okay? Once again, this month's or June's inflation numbers, their CPI numbers, are up, right? They're accelerating, okay, at percentage points that are higher than normal. Okay, and this represents a problem because the Fed, aka Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen, who is the Treasury Secretary, has said that yes, we expect to see some inflation, but we think it's going to be transitory, as in they think it's going to be temporary. However, we've seen again an increase in accelerated rising prices for the last 3 months now. Now, if this continues until the fall, all of a sudden the whole it's temporary argument falls apart, because to a certain extent, guys, we're in uncharted territory. Okay, we spent what, 10 trillion or more dollars over the last year, okay, and we've never done that before, right? Now, obviously, a lot of this is being spurred by recovering demand, okay, plus all the money that the government is putting into the economy, right? They're trying to hold up the economy with government spending, okay? And this increased demand, along with a supply shortage, is what is contributing to inflation, okay? And again, like I said, the key will be, will it continue? Because up until this point, yes, they can get away with saying, okay, yeah, last year we saw some deflation, right? And as we recover, yes, you're going to expect to see, some inflation that is higher than normal when you're looking at year over year numbers. Okay. That's fine. Right. But 3 months straight, right? If it goes on to 4, 5, 6, 7 months, that's going to be an issue. So I'm going to read a little bit more here about what's going on. And then we're going to jump into how, despite these numbers, the Democrats are basically ready to spend 4.5 trillion more government dollars that we do not have. Okay, so let's read a little bit here, and then I'll get into what the Democrats are trying to do. U.S. inflation continued to accelerate in June at the fastest pace in 13 years as the recovery from the pandemic gained steam and consumer demand drove up prices for autos, airline fares, and other items. Okay, these are things that were negatively affected by the pandemic. Okay. So obviously these prices are going to recover a lot faster and rise a lot faster than normal, given all the money that we put in the economy. The Labor Department said last month's consumer price index increased 5.4% from a year ago, the highest 12-month rate since August 2008. The so-called core price index, which excludes the often volatile categories of food and energy, rose 4.5% from a year before. The index measures what consumers pay for goods and services, including clothes, groceries, restaurant meals, recreational activities, and vehicles. It increased a seasonally adjusted 0.9% in June from May, the largest 1 month change since June 2008. The price for used cars and trucks leapt 10.5% from the previous month, driving 1/3 of the rise in the overall index, the department said, marking the third straight month of big price increases amid a supply shortage of vehicles. The indexes for airline fares and apparel also rose sharply in June. Consumers are seeing prices rise for numerous reasons as the U.S. economy recovery picks up. Richard F. Moody, chief economist at Regions Financial Corp, said the main driver of June inflation was booming demand that outpaced the ability of businesses to keep up. Another factor, he said, was the recovery in prices for air travel, hotels, rental cars, entertainment, and recreation. All services hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, so like I told you, demand is outplacing supply, right? Basic economics, prices have to rise, okay? But the question is, will it continue? And obviously, the Democrats are not concerned about whether or not it will continue, as they are prepared to pour $4.5 trillion of government money on top of a raging fire, right? The economy is doing fine, right? And this is my biggest issue with Democrats. They just don't know when to stop, right? They don't know when to chill. Right now, Democrats should be acting like Republicans, okay? They should be saying, we don't need to do anything, right? We just need to leave everything the same. But no, they have agreed to a 3.5 trillion infrastructure, right? That's really not infrastructure, healthcare and anti-poverty program. Now, the reason why I say 4.5 trillion, guys, because remember, they agreed to a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure deal with some bipartisan Republicans, more moderate Republicans. Okay, about 10 or 11 of them. So all in all, they want to spend $4.5 trillion, right? Again, they want to do this as inflation is accelerating at a historic pace, right? They still want to keep spending money when they can just chill. But again, Democrats don't have a chill button. So let's read a little bit more here about what the Democrats are doing. The Democrats on the Senate Budget Committee agreed to roughly $3.5 trillion in spending for their broad healthcare and anti-poverty program, determine the scope of the party's expected efforts on education, climate change, childcare, and a host of other issues while it has control of Congress and the White House. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced the agreement Tuesday night after an hours-long meeting among White House officials and members of the committee, which is tasked with crafting the broad contours of the bill. The $3.5 trillion price falls short of a $6 trillion package previously sought by progressives, including Senator Bernie Sanders, the chairman of the Budget Committee, who endorsed the deal Tuesday night. Democrats are pursuing a process tied to the budget called reconciliation to advance the bill through the 50-50 Senate without GOP support and avoid the 60-vote threshold typically needed in the chamber. With the top line figure set, lawmakers will still need to craft the details of the policy provisions in the $3.5 trillion agreement. Quote, "We are very proud of this plan. We know we have a long road to go. We are going to get this done for the sake of making average Americans' lives a whole lot better." The legislation is also expected to ultimately include a series of tax increases on corporations and wealthy Americans. Senator Mark Warner, a member of the budget panel, said its full cost would be paid for. A Democratic aide familiar with the agreement said it will prohibit tax increases on people making less than $400,000 and small businesses. Except they forgot to leave out the fact that the $1 trillion plan includes funding for the IRS, right? Boosting the IRS to take more money and to rob more money from the taxpayers, okay? So here's the deal. The Democrats have essentially agreed to how much more money they want to spend, right? The details are not set yet, but obviously they're going to focus on their Democratic priorities, you know, childcare, healthcare, stuff like that, right? And on top of that, you also have people that are calling for monthly $2,000 stimulus checks. Okay. So, I mean, the left has literally gone insane with free money and spending as much money as possible. They literally think that money grows on trees. I mean, hey, we're printing it. So I understand why they think that. And this is what happens when you get addicted to the government teat, right? You just can't stop milking it, right? For what it's worth. Now, here's the thing. The Republicans, whom agreed to the bipartisan infrastructure bill, right? The infrastructure bill. They're looking really bad right now. They're kind of looking like fools because that was supposed to be a compromise, a bipartisan compromise, in which, you know, the Democrats wouldn't do a whole bunch of wasteful spending, right? However, as soon as they agreed upon that, the Democrats basically came out and was like, well, we're not going to move forward with this, basically the deal that they negotiated with the Republicans on, unless we do reconciliation, right? Which is the other half of what the Democrats want to do. And quite honestly, guys, I mean, this plays into Biden's hands. Biden is kind of playing the Republicans like a fiddle right now. And guys, I'm not even like a person that's against bipartisanship, but just don't be stupid. Right? I don't know why the Republicans did not agree that, hey, this is the only infrastructure bill we're doing. You're not using reconciliation if we do this. Okay? But that's not what happened. Right? Now, essentially, what it looks like is that the Democrats are going to try to push through the $1 trillion portion with the Republicans that they negotiated it with. And then after that, they're going to say, screw the Republicans. We're just going to go whole hog on the $3.5 trillion more spending that they want to do on the non-infrastructure portion, which they can do through reconciliation, which essentially means that they're going to get the $4.5 trillion package that they was aiming for the whole time. Now, guys, remember, when this stuff first came out, the Democrats, I think the budget was like $4 trillion. They've added $500 billion more on top of that, right? That looks like that's what they're going to get after negotiating down a portion of the package with the Republicans. Like, Biden has essentially played the moderate Republicans like fools on this, right? That's what's happening. And what's ultimately, it's funny because Biden actually, I told you guys, I don't know if Biden actually really wants the plan that he claimed he wants, but it seems to me that he's really trying to walk this fine line of appearing to be bipartisan with Republicans, because he's probably closer to them, to be quite honest with you, than he is to the far left progressives, the AOCs, the Bernings of the world. He's being dragged more left than he actually is by them. And him negotiating this package with Republicans makes it look like he's being bipartisan, while at the same time being willing to do this $3.5 trillion reconciliation that includes some progressive priorities, can also satisfy the progressives to a certain extent. It can satisfy the base. And if the base is upset, then they'll just blame Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema for holding it up, right? Biden never gets the blame, okay? And it's not like Biden's going to take any slack from the Republicans in regards to the infrastructure portion of it, right? That's popular with the American people, right? That's a bipartisan issue. So Biden, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. This is a political finesse from Biden in regards to this whole infrastructure deal. And, at this point, Mitch McConnell, who, like I said, one thing about Mitch, people might not like him, but the dude is a smart strategist. He already knew this, and that's why he was like, I'm not really trying to get on board with this bipartisan infrastructure deal, because the Democrats are just going to try to pass the rest of it that they didn't negotiate with the Republicans through reconciliation, right? And he knew that. That's why he wasn't on board with it from the start. And the more I think about it, the more a lot of this is starting to make sense in terms of Biden's hesitancy just to go at it alone and to get Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin in line, because if he can balance the two, right, he can avoid making it look like that the Democrats are just going at it alone. Because in 2010, guys, I mean, a lot of people say that Obama lost his majority, okay, in Congress because the Democrats decided to go at it alone when it came to Obamacare. Okay, they decided that they didn't want to have any input from Republicans, and that kind of rallied the Republican base. And that's what led to him losing the majority in Congress. And Biden kind of riding this fine line here. He could be learning from Obama's failures and saying that, you know what, I'm going to at least appear to be bipartisan on this, while at the same time still getting some points with the progressives. Because, I mean, the Democrats have a slim majority in 2022, guys. I mean, there's only like, what, a 7-seat advantage in the House, and there's like, what, a 0-seat advantage in the Senate, right? I mean, take Kamala out of it, again, it's 0 seats. So, I mean, kind of smart on Biden's part, not gonna lie. This is kind of a finesse. But the dude's been in politics for like since the Stone Ages. So, I mean, you really shouldn't be surprised by this. But, my thing is, I really don't know what the moderate Republicans are really trying to get out of this, because it seems like they're just gonna get played, right? They're gonna be responsible for $4.5 trillion more in spending, on top of, again, the $10 trillion plus that we've already spent over the last year or so. Okay, so we will see what happens moving forward. I don't know if all of the Democrat senators are going to get on board with it. I don't know if the progressives will even get on board with it. I don't know if Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema will get on board with it. Joe Manchin said that he's going to take a look. Okay, but one thing I do know is that there's no way this is going to be paid for. There's no way. They're not paying for this. They're just not. Politicians, that's the thing I don't like about spending, right? Even the bipartisan agreements, the Republicans and Democrats, one thing they do agree on is that they don't want to pay for anything. They're going to run up the deficit, and that's what's going to happen if this thing passes, okay? Because that's the easy thing to do. The easy thing to do is just to spend, and don't worry about how you're going to actually pay for it. And that seems like that's kind of the direction that we're going. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share. a black conservative perspective. Peace.